All right, guys. I do think we are live. I do think I am live, rather. Solo for the pop-up, giving you guys some Whiskey Nerd info. See a lot of people in chat. Great to have y'all here. Got a lot of people watching. Cheers. Going to hydrate a little bit. Because we got a lot to talk about. And after this, Aaron and I have a content block to record, which means a Monday video, Tuesday video, Wednesday short, and Thursday video. So we have to do this before we go out of town with her parent or her family for our annual cousins camp. So hopefully you guys can hear me. Somebody let me know you can hear me in the chat. Would love to know that you can hear me. I'm not going to individually shout out everybody in chat because we got to keep this super brief. And I want to leave time for any questions that might pop up as well. So, all right, let's go ahead and set the stage here just so you guys know what the deal is. Since last Sunday, or I should say last week rather, or last Sunday to this Monday, I tasted over 80 barrels of whiskey and I did 13 picks. And then if you include Barrels for Hope charity stuff, 15 picks. So 80 barrels of whiskey, 15 barrel picks in the last 8 days. So I'm averaging 10 barrels of whiskey a day. In addition to all that, there have been 1, 2, 3, 4, essentially 5 bottle shares over the last week and a half. 6, 7, kind of like 6 bottle shares over the last week and a half. So it's been a busy couple of weeks, or busy week and a half. We've had, I went to the Shared Pour Partners event in Louisville early last week for Monday and Tuesday. Monday, which was Lux Row, Tuesday was MGP. And if you follow Jason, he's talked about this some, but I'm going to give you my angle on it. Jason over at Mash and Drum, by the way. And then, so I'll give my angle on it. And then, so that was Monday and Tuesday. Then I drove from there Wednesday to Starlight to pre-select barrels for my Barrels for Hope charity organization that I'm a part of. Pre-select barrels for 100 people to do a barrel pick at Starlight on Saturday. And then Saturday we went and did the barrel pick at Starlight after the Friday night bottle share at Barrels for Hope's annual event. And then we did the barrel pick on Saturday at Starlight. And then Saturday night, we had our big charity event where we presented our checks to our charities. And that was absolutely unreal, surreal, amazing experience. And then bottle share that night. And then after that, Sunday, drove to Michigan to go pick 2 barrels. Well, we were supposed to pick 1 barrel, but we picked 2 barrels at New Holland distillery. And then drove back home on Tuesday. Had an annual physical yesterday, which was fun to do on the heels of all that. And then, including blood work and everything. And then last night had my Whiskey and the Word meetup. So that's like a bottle share and just talking and hanging out and discussing things. So that was amazing. And then dentist appointment today, recording content tonight. And then we're leaving first thing in the morning to drive to Illinois for, and we'll be back home next Wednesday night. So lots of stuff going on. So let's front load it with let's go kind of day by day as far as what you guys can expect, and what you can, look forward to, over here on the Stuff and Whiskey side. So the Shared Pour Partners event was a big deal. MGP just doesn't do tours. That was Tuesday, but prior to that on Monday, we went to Lux Row and we kind of got the VIP treatment because the vice president of brand management, Matt, was taking us all around. So there were 6 channels there in total, and I see 21090 in the house. They were there, Todd and Andy, some of the best hangs you'll ever have if you can hang out with them. Such a great time. They bicker like an old married couple. They've known each other forever. It's just amazing just hanging out with those guys and sharing pours with them. So definitely check out their channel. Check out everything they're doing. Awesome guys. 21090 was there. It's Bourbon Night was there. Mash and Drum and My Bourbon Journey, they were there. Dusty Dan was there. Obviously, I was there. Aaron was not. Chris from Bourbon of the Week was there. Gosh, I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. I'm trying to go around the table on memory. Probably should just check my photos to make sure I don't leave anybody out. Because I'm going around the table and I feel like I'm somehow forgetting someone. I know where to go look. All right, let me make sure I'm not forgetting anybody. I believe there were 6 groups there. So Dusty Dan, Chad and Sarah from It's Bourbon Night, Todd and Andy from 21090, Scott from My Bourbon Journey, Jason from Mash and Drum, myself, and then Chris from Bourbon of the Week. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, technically 7 channels, but it's really like 6 channels because it's 7 channels, but Jason and Scott have their barrel club together. So whatever we selected, whatever I'm going to tell you guys that we picked, that's going to be split up 6 ways. And then however many bottles we get out of that, that will go to each individual group. I don't know a release strategy yet. I don't know how they're going to stagger that or if they're going to drop them all at the same time. But yeah, lots of stuff going on there. So at Lux Row, we picked, and this, I'm just going to run you down in order, and I'm honestly stick here because it's kind of front loaded and then things build up. So we picked a Rebel Stave Finish, which I didn't know was a product that they even offered. 110 proof. We picked a Mocha Stave to go on that, and I think everybody really loved that one. One of the highlights of the weekend was that pretty much everything we tasted, it was pretty easy for the larger group to kick out the barrels that just weren't going to cut the mustard, and then everything else was really kind of splitting hairs. So we picked a Rebel 110 proof stave finish with a Mocha stave. Then we picked a 120 proof Rebel, just no stave finish. Then we bounced into another room and we picked a Yellowstone American single malt at 108 proof. That is a very interesting. I mean, we got a lot of people who like American single malt, so that's up to you guys, whether you like that or not. And when we get a bottle in, we'll be able to tell you a little bit more about it. But, a lot of American single malts are really chocolatey and lean towards that darker, richer profile. This was way more on the lighter, fruitier side. But the one that ended up getting picked, it was kind of a split vote, and it really did come down to the wire. I think there was one swing vote that shifted it one way or the other. I thought they were both good. The price point on it's going to be fine. Like, it's going to be all these are going to be value picks from Lux Row. But I'm really interested in tasting that one in the bottle because I just didn't expect to walk into such a fruity lineup out of American single malt. So yeah, we'll see. And I see James saying it's the flavor profile. So yeah, I haven't tried American single malt from Yellowstone before, so that was really interesting. Then we bounced back into the first room, and then we picked a Ezra Brooks stave finish and an Ezra Brooks 120 proof. So the Ezra Brooks stave finish at 110 proof was a French oak stave. And I saw Chris asked what makes a Mocha stave a Mocha stave. It's just what they call it in-house. That's what they think the flavor imparts. And it's pretty close. And when you're tasting this many barrels, getting individual flavor notes is very difficult. You're kind of just focusing on the experience and like narrowing it down to the barrel that you want because you got so many more things to taste. So we picked the Ezra stave finish, 110 proof with the French oak stave. That was pick number 4. Pick number 5 was Ezra at 120 proof. Both of those I love both of those. Very good barrels. The Rebels are good too. And then we went from there back into the other room and picked what I thought were 2 of the coolest picks we did the whole event, which was a Penelope Rosé cask finish at barrel proof. I think it's like 112 or something. I'd have to check my notes. But that's a crazy pick. Like, I didn't know they did single barrel selections of Penelope Rosé cask. And it definitely has rosé influence, but it's a complement to the base whiskey, which is just very good. So I was really, really surprised, impressed, and happy with that pick. And then the last pick we did there, pick number 7, was a Old Ezra 7-year single barrel rye. And again, I didn't know that they did single barrel rye selections of Old Ezra 7 at Lux Row. So very, very cool. And again, if you guys have any questions, leave them in the chat. I'm trying to kind of recap the info quickly because we got to record at 5 o'clock in 13 minutes. So if I'm not catching you in chat, I'm seeing you breeze by, but I want to address any specific questions and get through this. So again, those will all be split cases. Jay at Shared Pour said around the holidays, he expects those to kind of be in. So it'll be very interesting. And then after that, went back, had a great dinner, hung out with everybody. It was a great time. But we had an early morning Tuesday because we had to go to MGP, hour and 40-minute drive. You know, you're walking into, I felt like I was going to work at UPS. Like I had to go check in at a security desk. I had to, swipe through security to get in. We were escorted. It was an incredible experience. People just don't get to tour MGP. So it was crazy. I mean, the place is so big. The scale was incredible. There were points during the tour, and I like to think I have a pretty good sense of direction, but there were points during the tour that if Ian Sturzman, the master distiller, had told me go back to the tasting room, I would have been completely lost. I wouldn't even known how to get out of some of the buildings. I just had to keep trying doors until I found a way outside, but it was crazy. One of the most special experiences to be able to see a pure production facility with absolutely zero beautification, 100% function over form. It was wild. It was wild. And to hear all the things that they do there, it's crazy. And if you want to hear more about that, Jason covered a lot of it on his stream over at Mash and Drum last Wednesday, I believe. So check that out. But it's crazy. Like they got a welding shop underneath a barrel warehouse. That's insane. How does it not catch fire? They have 150 employees on site that have zero to do with distilling. Those 150 people's only job is to keep the distillery functioning mechanically. And then you got all the other distillery staff. So absolutely crazy. And then, so we do a tour there, have a great time. Ian's a wealth of knowledge and one of the most down-to-earth dudes you'll ever meet in your life. Super, super cool guy. And then we started tasting barrels, and we tasted a boatload of barrels at MGP as well. I think we ended up with 4 picks technically, but then Jay picked a 5th one as well. And I don't know how that may just be a shared pour pick, but our group selected basically a 5-year and a 7-year Remus, and then a 7-year and a 9-year rye, which are going to come out under the Rossville Union label. And the 2 Remuses are both the highest rye mash bill. So it's the 51 corn, 49 rye. Technically that's 39 rye, 10% malted rye, still 51.49. And so those were awesome. Like the first one was, I remember this distinctly. It was like a spicy pineapple-y type of note, kind of tropical. And then it had that barrel spice to offset the sweet tropical nature of it, that was super cool. Love that barrel. Then the second barrel was just awesome. I think Jason and I, Mash and Drum, keyed in on this barrel, and we were loving this thing. And everybody else, I think, was loving it too. I think there was some discussion between a couple of barrels that, like the top 2 barrels, there were some people that were feeling the other one pretty well too, but the spicy pineapple just had such a good I'm getting distracted by Jason saying pineapple jalapeno crazy. Yeah. So the second barrel, I mean, the extra age just brought in that richness and that depth and that flavor, and it just was so good. And then Jason was like, Ian, I need a gallon of this. And then Ian went out and actually brought back a bottle of it. And it was Jason's birthday. And so we all started singing happy birthday. It was awesome. I don't even know who started singing happy birthday, but somebody chimed up and we were off to the races. I think we all kind of were on the same wavelength and just started doing it. Because Jason's like, Ian, it's my birthday. I need a gallon of this. So yeah, it was perfect. But the 2 ryes were very interesting. If you guys know mash bills, Sagamore Spirits has a 51 rye, 45 corn, 4 malted barley mash bill. That's it's their low rye mash bill that they blend in to their high rye mash bill, which is contract distilled with MGP, to make a blend for their single barrels. but I didn't know that MGP also distills that mash bill for themselves, and they do. So we got to try, that was slotted in to the picks. So the 7-year rye is a 51 rye, 45 corn, 4% malted barley, single barrel of Rossville Union. That's barrel strength, and it is awesome. Sarah and I both were in love with this barrel, and it was in the top 2 of everybody. The votes came down, and most people went, or I think the vote went the other way, but Sarah and I were kind of talking and getting a reading of the room, and we're like, it seems like you guys like both of these, and it's kind of seems like both feel like a good pick to y'all, but we really, really like this one. And so the group kind of let Sarah and I have that barrel that we really liked because we liked it so much. So that was amazing. And then the 9-year, I think it's going to be pushing 10 years by the time it's bottled. That's a 95.5 rye. But boy, oh boy, it is a very good pick. And the value is going to be crazy because it's coming out under the Rossville Union label and all this stuff. And keep in mind, these are barrels that Ian Sturzman, the master distiller, tasted and pulled for our group in part with the vice president of brand management for MGP. So these are not your just everyday on the shelf Remus picks or Rossville Union picks, or there's picks in here that, to my knowledge, just don't get bottled. So we've got some really cool stuff coming down the pipeline for you guys with all that. And then that's what's pertinent to you guys. Then I go off and Wednesday do the Barrels for Hope stuff. We have an absolutely amazing time Friday and Saturday with the Barrels for Hope event. If you guys know anything about Barrels for Hope, or if you're in Barrels for Hope or are familiar with it or have heard me talk about it, it's a fantastic organization, and it's full of a bunch of amazing people. We donated $40,000 for charity. And then in addition to that, in addition to the donations we made, we raised another $4,500 with a Four Roses single barrel for charity that we picked. And then we had a bottle auction, which raised another $11,500. And then National Barrel Company, the owners were in attendance for the annual event, and they were so moved that they donated a barrel to us as well. So the National Barrel Company donation of a barrel, 4 Barrels for Hope, plus the charity auction for bottles that we had, and the Four Roses that we picked for charity, those 3 things together, in addition to the $40,000, raised another over $30,000. So it was like a $70,000 weekend for charity supporting cancer, military, children's, and mental health. So the same mental health organization that we support, To Write Love on Her Arms, we were able to give them a $10,000 check to American Cancer Society. Lance Lyle over at Whiskey Tornado, he wanted cancer to be involved, cancer charity to be involved in our organization because his wife Renee got breast cancer a couple years ago and beat it. Joe Carter, many of you guys know Joe from Stuff and Whiskey stuff and S&W MVP picks. When he was younger, he had a sister who died from brain cancer, but before she did, they were able to go on a Disney vacation to Make-A-Wish, and Disney vacation through Make-A-Wish. And then so he's obviously Make-A-Wish is very important to him. And the $10,000 check we gave them, they said on stage that it would be supporting a kid's wish in its entirety. So that was really cool. And then Dusty Dan picked Folds of Honor, military man, and he's lost several friends and had families that have received benefits from Folds of Honor, which is an organization that takes care of families and sponsors kids and scholarships, pays for scholarships for kids who's, if your spouse dies in the line of combat, they take care of those children and those families. So it's a very, very special organization there as well. We all have personal ties to all of those organizations. So we were able to tell a little bit of our story on stage, and then Jason from Mash and Drum graciously emceed the whole thing. And him and Bill Kavanaugh, WJK, if he's in the chat, those are the only 2 people that were on stage that actually had it together. The rest of us were just, basically just holding it together. But all that was put together in huge part and pretty much entirety by Kim Schwartz, who's part of our community here. You guys know Kim, and it was just an amazing experience to be part of, and very, very moving. And, it's really starting to set in to me how special it really was this week, now that I've had a little time at home to relax and think about it. But after that, we left, went to Michigan, to New Holland, and man, they got some really good whiskey up there. I've heard Dan and Sean talk about, over at the Bourbon Junkies, I've heard them talk about the Dragon's Milk Origin, and that bottle looks really cool. It was my perception that that was a beer barrel aged bourbon, but that's not the case. That's just their bourbon, not beer barrel aged. So we went and picked a beer barrel aged bourbon, which I didn't know this because we don't get this whiskey down here, but apparently there is a shelf product that they have that is a beer barrel aged bourbon, but it's only in the beer barrel for 6 months and it's not that old. And this one was in the beer barrel for 2.5 years, but they came out of the gate swinging with these barrels. And the very first one we tasted, it was just an insane. When people say stone fruit, I never know what they mean. I feel like they're grasping at straws a lot of times, or it's just like a faint hint. I get that note way more on international whiskey. But boy, oh boy, I mean, this was like a peach milkshake. It was like a boozy, spicy, barrel spicy peach milkshake from Chick-fil-A or something. It was so good. And then the second beer barrel we tried had way more of the beer influence. It was more of like a little bit of peach apricot with a whole lot of beer barrel influence. And then the first one was way more heavy, creamy peach apricot, a little bit of citrus as well. And then just that slight touch of beer barrel on the back end. And so we picked that one, and we tasted some malted rye and some American single malts as well from them. And this one malted rye that we tasted, it's entirely malted. The whole mash bill is malted. I think it's 51 rye, 49 malted barley, 51 malted rye, 49 malted barley. And I am so in love with this rye. I thought I was losing my mind because I was still getting that peach note, and I never get that on rye ever. But I'm still getting that peach note on it. And I'm like, guys, did I not wash my glass out well enough or something? Or are you guys getting this? And everybody was like, oh yeah, it's there. And this thing was crazy creamy. It was a 7-year rye that's going to release under their Walleye Rye brand, which is a pretty new to market bottling. I don't know if I have a photo on my phone or not that I could show you guys. I do have a photo on my phone. So Walleye Run, see if you can see that. That's what the bottle looks like. However, for the single barrel picks, the label's actually black, and then the black text there is kind of a goldish hue, and then the wax seal right there is black as well. So it's a killer looking bottle. This rye is just absolutely insane. We all fell in love with it, and then we tried some more stuff there as well, but the other stuff just did not measure up to the barrel that we selected. I mean, I see Michael Newcomer in the chat. Me and Mike were really in love with that second barrel of beer barrel finish, but it was just too much. It was too much of a beer influence to ask you guys to go out on a limb for. That first barrel was just amazing, super delicious. And then the rye is just off the charts. I've got great interviews with people. I'll put together a little sizzle reel video of that pick. But yeah, I cannot wait, guys. We've probably got, if I had to guess, from the shared pour event, let's say a typical bottle yield on some of those Rebel and Ezra picks, the Penelopes, even the MGPs for that matter. Let's just say they yield 185 ballpark. And so, by the way, guys, if you see, like Mike is saying, so excited about our New Holland picks, everybody is in for some treats. Mike was on the pick. Mandy and Brian were on the pick. Those New Holland picks were so good. I am not kidding you guys. You are going to want these bottles. They are absolutely bonkers delicious. They won't be my favorite picks that we've ever done because I just love Nashville Barrel too much. And then I really love some of the unique things we've picked, like, the Middle West Spirits and things like that. But these are right up there with some of the most unique picks we've ever chosen. And by far, I mean, they are so delicious. I would not be surprised if these were some people's favorite picks, if not our favorite picks that we've ever done. I had no clue they had whiskey this good in Holland, Michigan. I was absolutely floored and continue to be floored if you can't tell. I cannot wait for them. But let's say all the stuff we picked at Lux Row yields 185 bottles, ballpark. Divide that by 6 groups, so that's about 30 bottles a piece. So there will be 7 picks coming from Lux Row and 4 more coming from MGP, 4 or 5 more. And, that's going to be a lot of picks flooding you guys. So we'll get bottles in. We'll try to make sure, as I always do, I want to communicate to you guys whether you should or shouldn't even want the pick. Is it going to fit what you're looking for? And if it is, great. But because there's so many bottles coming out, there probably going to be some stuff that's more in demand. I would assume, the old Ezra 7, the older Remus, the older Rye, I would imagine would be pretty in demand. Probably the Penelope Rosé cask finish, but these are all really good picks. Cannot wait to taste them bottled, because again, we were tasting so many things. It's hard to get much more of an impression than what is it sweet? Is it not sweet enough? Is the flavor saturation there? How's the mouthfeel? How's the overall experience? How's the finish? And you guys know what we pick on. I'm looking for a good sweet profile that has some balance to it, big saturation of flavor, always looking for that. And then I want the mouthfeel and the finish to hang in there. So that's a biggie for me. And I think we nailed it. And it was great to work with all the other channels too. It was an incredibly collaborative process. And I think some really cool barrels are going to come to you guys from all that. And then the New Holland stuff is amazing as well. And at the Barrels for Hope event, we did pick Starlight. We picked 2 Starlight barrels. And you guys know how Barrels for Hope goes sometimes. If those go through all the membership and don't sell out, those could potentially become available to some of you guys for opt-in, and they're amazing. Like Jason over at Mash and Drum was saying, he picked a 7-year straight bourbon from Starlight that one of our barrels reminded him of, and it was only a 4.5 year, but it literally tasted like 7 to 8 year whiskey. I didn't have the Rockstar, but to me, this was the best single barrel of Starlight I've ever tasted, period, from the brand, period. It was just a straight bourbon. It was amazing. I think they're really figuring out their barreling and aging process, because everything we tasted on the pre-selection was amazing. But this one single barrel, goodness gracious, I'm so in love with it. And then we also picked a double oaked, which is very, very good. It's like French oak double oaked, toasted. It's like a double oak toasted head type of thing with this French oak barrel. It's 48-month seasoned wood, all kinds of crazy stuff. So they've really got it dialed in there at Starlight. So yeah, fun stuff coming down the pipeline there. So I do need to get off here and record. I've been seeing names roll by in chat. I'm so thankful that you guys are here. I really wanted to keep this to 30 minutes or less. And I'm definitely going to push right into that. I'm going to check questions real quick, and I'm going to take a sip of whiskey while I do that, see if anybody has any specific questions I need to address really quickly before I hop off here and we get into this recording block. So let me see. Oh, so I'm just warming up with a little Jack Daniel's single barrel select for these recording videos that we're about to do. Make sure my palate's still feeling right. That's such a good low proof, easy sipper. Still has spice, still has great flavor. So Shades of Blue Mike said, Josh had it better than all of us at the dentist. I was at the dentist earlier today. Best dentist appointment I've ever had in my life. That's pretty cool. Also, apparently I'm getting Invisalign because my lower front teeth are getting worn down because of my bite, and I've never had braces before. And they told me if I don't get them, it's going to continue to wear my teeth down, and I'm going to have jaw problems. And I already have jaw problems, so not good. So now I have to do Invisalign. By the way, I wasn't hitting a dab there. I had to cough. I just had my hands full. Jeff is saying, hey, Josh, the year-end event was such a blast. Can't wait until the next one. Same, brother. It was great hanging out with you. Always a good time. Mike is saying, and most important is the fantasy football dynasty draft. So yeah, our Stuff and Whiskey Dynasty Startup League. Amidst all of this going on, I'm juggling a dynasty draft as well. So if my team's terrible, we know why. Yeah, Andy and Todd Cantera. Yeah, they are a very cute couple. Love those guys. Oh, that's a good story. If you want the joke on that one, you got to watch Jason's stream from last Wednesday. It's a hilarious story. Jeff says, does Rebel 10 year still exist? I don't know. I've never seen it in our market, period. Ever. Also haven't seen Rebel Small Batch Reserve in our market. And I know SLB talks about that one a lot. So we gotta look into that one, see if we can track down a bottle. All right, let's see. So yeah, Todd and Andy saying the Old Ezra 7-year single barrel rye is off the charts good. It is. What I'm curious is going to be if anybody gets the Old Ezra 7-year rye and then either of the 2 MGP ryes or all 3 of those ryes, and I want all 3 of them, I want to know which one you think is the best of those 3. And, Todd and Andy or Jason or anybody that was there on those picks, of the 3 ryes we selected, the Old Ezra and the 2 MGPs, is there one that you particularly love? I mean, it's hard not to say the Old Ezra because it's a pretty unique product. I don't think I've ever seen a single barrel pick of that. Boy, oh boy, I'm really in love with that 7-year rye for some reason. There's something in there that I adored. Extreme Mellow said, which location was not necessarily your favorite, but most memorable? Definitely MGP. Yeah. 100%, just because people don't get to go there, and to see such a production focused operation was pretty crazy. Justin says, quick question. Don't you think you should take your IV guy with you on the next 80 plus barrel escapade? Yeah, I'll pitch that next year if Shereport does another excursion like this. We'll have to get an IV guy. We need the IV guy to come along. I know prerequisite is he's got to be able to taste the barrels too, but IVs have to happen prior to barrel tasting, I would imagine. Don't want you 80 barrels deep trying to stick a needle in somebody's arm. All right, let's see. Agent Oak says, can't wait to get my first S&W pick. Cheers to that. Man, we got some good stuff coming down the pipeline. I need to update the master list, and I was going to try to do that before we left for Cousins Camp tomorrow morning, but I can't. I'm not going to get around to it. We've got to record. I've got to pack. That's going to be the whole night right there. And then we got to leave first thing in the morning. So, but yeah, we should have the 4-gate should be coming soon. The double oaked, undisclosed distillery in the middle of Kentucky. That, if you know anything about it's basically a single barrel of Kelvin 60, but that we selected the base bourbon, and it's getting double oaked. So that's coming down the pipeline. Should be pretty soon. 1792 full proof we're still waiting on. Could be any minute. We're picking those 2 Russell's picks on August the 1st. Can't wait for that. We've got all these picks we just did that are going to be coming down the pipeline. We're going to be doing National Barrel Company 12-year rye in October. We may yet pick another bourbon at NBC near the end of the year, if not the beginning of the year, depending on how their barrels are looking. Apparently they got some new 5-year Kelvin stuff. You heard me right. 5-year Kelvin stuff is at NBC. I got to check it out, see what's going on with it. Is it MGP? Is it undisclosed Kentucky distilleries? We're going to find out. And if they have one of those, I don't know how I don't go pick a bourbon like immediately. So we shall see. All right. David Small said, yeah, Barrels for Hope, it got a little dusty in the ballroom Saturday night. Yeah, everybody had a little dust in their eyes. Steven says, I could not get into Dragon's Milk. Cool bottle, but the juice was way, way too malty. They do have, all their grains are malted, so there is that. But at least on the barrels we tried, that maltiness, it lent itself to this very creamy mouthfeel. Like, I mean, you're talking about like peaches and cream. Incredible. Like, it puts you in that mindset of like I said, a milkshake or something. It's amazing. Oh, we got Jeffrey Wack in the house. Hello again, whiskey friends. Good to see you. All right, let me see. Living the Light says, which pick had the best saturation? Oh man, honestly, um, the first thing that flashes to my mind is that walleye rye from New Holland. I don't know if that's the single most saturated pick. The old Ezra was really nice too. The older MGP bourbon, the older Remus bourbon, was really nice and saturated. I want to say the Ezra had a nice level of saturation to it as well. Yeah, so Jason's saying the older Ezra was the most surprising, but the last 9-year we picked is a special rye, and it's a 95.5. But boy, oh boy, is it good! Boy, oh boy, is it good! Mark says, just letting you know, Double Trouble sips well, in my opinion. I agree. It's got enough flavor there. It's got the saturation flavor. It's got that finish that ramps up and swells like we like. But it hits the palate with just sweetness and rolls up into that finish. I really love that bottle. I'm really bummed about the cork issue. By the way, check Patreon if you want more information on that. But yeah, I guess Pursuit just got a bad batch of corks. So all the safety bottles are ran through. There's nothing else to ship out to anybody that had any issues. So if you did have cork leakage, reach out. You'll get a refund. You get to keep the bottle that you've got. So that's nice. And then if you have a cork that broke in the bottle, run it through a fine mesh filter to filter out any cork bits so it doesn't taint the whiskey, or run it through a coffee filter immediately. I know Pursuit feels awful about this cork issue. I know it's a huge pain to shared pour, and I know most of all, it's a real big inconvenience to you guys. I mean, people got completely stained bottle labels. People are missing whiskey out of their bottles that they paid for. Obviously, I love win-wins or win-win-wins, and this is a lose-lose-lose all around, and that sucks. So shared pour will make it right. Hopefully most people have like 80% of their bottle and they get a refund, so you get free whiskey. That would be pretty cool. And use it on one of the upcoming picks. Mandy saying, yes, the walleye run had major saturation. I can't wait for that to drop. Oh, I cannot wait. I'm still thinking about that. All right, that's it, guys. I wanted to keep it to 30. We're at 37. Not too bad, but I did start late, so I am 15 minutes late to starting our recording. So gotta go. Love you guys so much. Appreciate you so very much. Again, we got a ton of stuff coming down the pipeline. It's going to be a very fun time ahead for Stuff and Whiskey and the community, which keeps growing and keeps getting full of just awesome people. If you're watching this and you're not on Discord, please get on Discord. Look, I'm technologically challenged and I figured it out. It's way better. Get off Facebook if you're on Facebook. Just get on Discord. Start hanging out. Get involved. Start chatting whiskey. Start offering to do some sample trades or post some things that you're looking for in the sample swap section to see if you can, if somebody has something that you're looking for and maybe you have something that they're looking for and you guys can do a sample swap. So get in on that. And then, yeah, what else? We'll be gone. So a little out of pocket, focusing on family for the next few days. Next Friday, we will have our next pop-up, and it will be with none other than special in-studio guest. Where's he at? Special in-studio guest right there, Mr. T himself, and with a flight provided by none other than Bill Kavanaugh. So we're going to be sipping and enjoying, and there's no telling what we have in store for us. Steven and Dave Renstrom got to get with you guys to set up the next round of the challenge that Bill has sent the three of us. We got to get a date locked in on that. And yeah, tons of stuff coming down the pipe. So appreciate you guys so much, so very much. You make our life better. Cheers.